Welcome back to another episode of Voices of the Goddess, where brilliant women come to take a break from their successful and sometimes overwhelming lives to level up, live free, and create abundance.
If your hectic life has you feeling a bit lost, if you're building your career, brand, or business, or if you simply want to get the most out of life, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Julietta Wenzel, founder of Body and Soul PT and Soul Candy.
And I'm your co-host, Graciela Laurent, professional portrait photographer specializing in boudoir and personal branding.
Whether you're relaxing with a cup of coffee or running around town, we've got you.
Whatever you're doing, thanks for bringing us along and sharing a laugh.
Here comes the magic. Dun 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 dun!
It's episode 200! Woo-hoo!
Can you believe it? 200 episodes.
Yay. Oh, for those of you listening on headset, sorry I just woot-wooted in your ear.
Love you, girl.
You know what? Turn down your volume now because it's an exciting day. It's very, very cool. 200 episodes. That is brilliant. Round of applause.
Yay. Like, such an amazing milestone. I remember you weren't with me then, but starting the show and having like no clue. And then when Allison had to leave the show, like, do I keep going? And thank you so much for stepping up and, keeping this going on. Like, looking back at so many amazing people that we've had on this show and the feedback that we get, it's so cool. It's so cool.
It is so cool. And it's such a cool library, of inspiration and like amazing stories. I'm constantly referring back to our episodes, thinking about like, wait, what was it that the one person said again? Like, I need to hear that again, So like definitely bookmark the episodes. I'm sure there's some millennial way of doing that I don't know how to do it. I just have pieces of paper around me.
Well, and loving also now, having our editors, they're creating the reels for us. And so taking out those really big, important quotes and turning it into a little mini thing. So you could just head over to the YouTube shorts and just sit there and watch all those short little powerful snippets.
And they do come up, it's really weird to be on my own YouTube doing my own thing and then see my own face pop up. And I'm like, hey, wait, what is that? Why am I, is it like, what is that?
I know her.
What's even more amazing is that I said something quotable. That was it.
And that's the fun part, because the new episodes come out on the podcast every Tuesday. So Tuesday I get in my car, I pop on the new episode. And so while I'm driving, I'm listening to it. And, time has passed since we've recorded the episode till when I'm listening it. And sometimes I'm like, wow, we said that in that episode. She said that. Just brilliant stuff. We know a lot of really smart people.
It has been very amazing. And I'm really excited for everything that's coming in the future too. Like it's, when we started, when I joined your podcast, and it's now our baby and I love being its stepmom. But I feel like at the time I was like, oh my gosh, a whole podcast. That's so much. Right. And now it feels like, meh, it's just one tiny little thing. There's so much more we want to do, I love like the evolution that is happening and where we're going and whatnot. But I don't think we can talk about where we're going until we talk about where we've been. Right. So, neither you nor I are one to dwell on the past, so to speak. But I do think it's important to kind of, I was thinking back about, freedom, authenticity. Those are our highest values, right? It's what we have this whole podcast for, right? Is to help folks really reach into who they are authentically. Why? Because we know that discomfort, suffering, it comes from misalignment. It comes from not really being and saying and doing the things that you really want to do. So, how can we help you along that path? I don't know. I was just thinking back to, my own life and where it all began. And I'm curious, in your own history, when was it that what was it like when you were living inauthentically? Like, what time in your life do you remember that you were like, man, this sucks. How do I get out of here?
I think almost my whole life. And
At all.
well, there's the I mean, I remember even as a child not feeling like I fit in, but being who I thought I needed to be to have people like me. And yes, I always had friends around me. I think I'm a likable person, kind of. But always holding back. And but I think it becomes even more important when you become an adult, and so choosing the career of physical therapy. I am grateful for that career. I know that I am a healer, but I'm not a Western medicine healer. And our in the profession, like the term that loves to get thrown around all the time is evidence-based medicine. And we were talking about this a little bit on the previous show, that I get it. A lot of people need to see evidence. They need to know the science. They need to know the researcher. But me, as someone who is claircognizant, I don't need anybody to prove anything to me, because I know what I know, and I know when something has truth because of how it feels inside of me. But I remember early in my career, and people would be asking me like, why are you doing this? And blah, blah, blah. And I would like vomit out this scientific bullshit so that people would accept what I was doing, and here in my head, I'm like, oh, because it's the energy and the frequency and the blah, 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 blah that.
I mean, what I love is that we're at a time where energy and frequency and the blah, 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 blah do actually fit together, right? Like, and that you had to go through that to get to where you are today, right?
And also being brave enough to step outside of the boxes that we get put in, because, if I only stay in my lane and only work on, the muscles and bones and joints and whatever, as I'm trying to help people heal, like that's not the only thing that's impacting where they're at, it's their emotions, it's the spiritual side of things. And being able to step out of the box, and like it's just so freeing now to be able to speak about past lives and ancestral trauma and energy and chakras and whatever is coming up for that person, like being free to be able to talk about it instead of making up some Western medical story about what's going on in their body so that it sounds believable to them.
Right. And I think the time is perfect for that now, like in the world, in society. Thank goodness that this conversation can be had. Because how many people haven't you treated over the years that they've said, oh, well, this is just how I am. It's always been this way. I come from a long line of people with, bad backs. And so therefore I must have a bad back. And like you said, sure, you could treat it from just a physical standpoint, but that's why you continue to be in that pain. That's why you continue to make the same mistakes. And, and just to extrapolate it a little bit further, it's also why you end up in the wrong relationships all the time. It's why you end up in the wrong jobs all the time. Like, yes, get yourself coaches for each of those things. That's amazing. But until you get to the root and the base and the heart of everything, it's just the ripple effect, right? Like you can do all the traction you want, but your back's not going to heal itself until you're working with all the way around, right? I love to see you as aligned as you are.
We talk about authenticity all the time. Like being authentic is what's going to help you heal. So it's not just our live your best life, like achieve the goals you want to achieve, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's also like, if you want your physical body to heal, you need to get authentic as well. Tell us your story.
Well, I was thinking like in authenticity, right? And I think that I think a little bit of it, unless you have like amazing parents, which like I'm trying to do. I think as a child, there's always going to be a part that is like doing what you're supposed to do. And then once you start getting a little bit older, right? Like maybe into your, I don't know, teen years or whatnot, you start kind of discovering your own voice and saying, I know I was told to do it this way, but I really realized that this is the way I feel, right? So like when I was a kid, I've brought up, I'm sure, a few times on the show, I had this raging alcoholic dad, and it's just like super crazy, chaotic childhood. And so I would go to school every day, and it was being inauthentic all day long because I didn't want to tell anybody what was going on. It was so shameful, right? And, I was so upset that like all my friends had sleepovers, and of course I couldn't have a sleepover at my house. It was a shit show, right? And also at the same time, I had like the most incredible, loving mom and brother and sister and, extended family and all of these things. Right. And so it was like this, gauntlet that I had to run as a kid of like, I'm going to share this, but I'm not going to share that. And, just so much misalignment. And I remember that when I was little, I had stomach aches all the time, all the time. Like we went to a million doctors. They couldn't figure out what was wrong. I drank Pepto-Bismol like it was like water. Like it was just constant, right? I even had horrible allergies constantly all the time. And, everybody felt sorry for me, but nobody could fix me, right? And then when my parents got divorced, I noticed that my stomach aches decreased by like, I don't know, 60%, something like that. Like it was a significant difference. And that was my first realization that, wait a minute, like living under duress, I didn't even realize in the moment that truly I am a product of child abuse. Like I never even gave myself that label probably till my mid 30s when I kind of sat back and did the math and go, wait a minute, hold on. I think when people live through this, and this, and this, I think that checks the boxes, right? So talk about an identity that I didn't even understand that I was carrying. And then fast forward, I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart, which was what I needed at the time, and also the wrong marriage for me, and also still had stomach aches. So I always laugh and I say, when my parents got divorced, my stomach aches got 60% better. When I got divorced, my stomach aches went away 100%. Never did have anything wrong. I was probably the youngest person to get a colonoscopy in my 20s, and there was nothing wrong with me, right? It was just all of that stress and all of that, but all of that really boiled down. Like the part that felt bad was me not living authentically, right? And then you said earlier, your whole life, right? And I agree. I think there's always been a time in my life that I realized like somehow I got off my track and I forgot who I was, So now I'm 49. Now I've had my business for 10 years. And I look back even over the last 10 years, right? I started a business not knowing. I thought I had identified my perfect ideal client. I thought that my business had to be based in numbers, right? What are my KPIs and what are my, I don't even remember them anymore, but like, right, all those trigger words about how to run a successful business and how much money did I make this month. And I was so obsessed over those numbers that like, I wasn't happy. Sure, I was building my business and I was attracting clients and everything was going well, but I was not truly happy. I thought that suffering was part of the deal, And then pandemic gave me time to think. And when I sat down and I really analyzed everything, I realized that living authentically, declaring what I wanted, right? I only want to shoot twice a week. I wrote that down. I am not a photographer that shoots every single day. I don't shoot weddings. I don't shoot events. I don't, that's not, it was really hard to say what I didn't want and hard to say I only want this because I thought, oh my God, what if I niche down too far? I'm in South Florida. I'm one in a bajillion photographers. How am I ever going to be successful? But the more I aligned, the better I felt with myself. Man, not only did I double my business, the following year I doubled it again. So now I'm at like 5x, right? My business, what it was just 3 years ago. That's incredible. And on our path to 10x, like I'm on the way, you know? But it really all came down to being authentic. It really did.
I think I love, because you talking about that made me think about, so I started working for myself in 2003, opened up a clinic with a PT business partner in 2006, and was really diving into the business side of this, and signed up for PT physical therapy business school. And like we signed up for the mastermind of it, and like we'd have to bring these reports with us and all the numbers, and then and you got to do things this way, and you got to, and like all of it, just like I hated every single piece of it. But I kept, this is what you got to do to be successful, this is what you got to do. Listen, you do not have to do things that way. Like, yes, are a lot of businesses made successful? Do a lot of businesses make money that way? Yes, 1,000%. Yes. And if you're going to be miserable the whole time, is that really what you want to do?
Right.
And, having the realization that I can have what I need in my life and be happy running a business that in a way that feels joyful, authentic, fun, free to me.
Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that like numbers and KPIs and all those things are bad. They're not.
They're
As
not
long
bad
as
at
you're
all.
happy doing them, right? If you're happy doing that, then amazing, But I know for me, I would rather have a shitty KPI month and have amazing clients walk through my door, people that I feel aligned with, that that they cry when they see their pictures. I think I told you the story the other day that, that happened. I had a client come in. She was a breast cancer survivor, and she's looking at the pictures on the screen, and she's just in full tears. And I'm like, man, this is what KPIs should be. How many people did you bring to tears with your work today? How many lives did you change today? Put that on a chart and put check marks in it. Yes, of course, I have to pay my mortgage. I have to pay my rent here. There's, fiscal responsibilities. I get that. And I do all of those things. But those things really are number two. Number one is my highest value. What is my impact in the world? And for me, I measure that through human emotion. That's why I host so many events here, because I want people to see and to create the opportunity to live from that authenticity.
Another thing that came up that I never thought of this before until you were sitting there talking. But for most of my career, people have told me, you should write a book. You should write a book. You should write a book. As you know, I don't like writing words very much. I'm like, thank you, ChatGPT, for helping me so much. Because like, it's really difficult for me to write words. But then I'm like, wait, this right now, what we're doing is my book. This is where I can get all those messages out that all my career people have been telling me. These messages need to get put out there. Here they are. Here is my book. And this feels so much better.
Absolutely. And you know what? One day you'll hire an editor. They'll go through 200 episodes, take out the snippets, write it in a book. Done. That's it. You won't have to worry about it.
There you go. Anybody who wants to step up and do that job, send me an email.
There you go. And we'll have a GPT chat another time, because I have opinions about that, but we'll get to that another time. But I did want to talk about the new Body and Soul Ministries, because we want to I don't know, that's a really big deal. I just want to celebrate that with you.
Yeah. So the official launch is coming up December 1st, which is exciting. Also because it's the end of Body and Soul PT and all of that. But the fun part is December 1st is also my birthday. Yeah. So like, it's not only like the birth of Body and Soul Ministries, but it's also like my rebirth into the space of being 100% authentic, both personally and professionally. And so that is super exciting. And, a lot of this stems from, I have spirit guides that chat with me. There's been no secret about that. But that was something that I hid for very long because, oh my God, if people know that these blue beings talk to Julietta, they're going to think she's really weird and maybe like want to Baker actor or something like that. And now it's like, I don't care anymore. Yes, blue beings speak to me. They give me all kinds of messages. And, part of that message has been for a long time that, the one-on-one healing work that I do with my clients is great, but that I need to reach more people and I need to expand beyond just the healing of physical pain. And, one of their messages was, it's not just about getting people out of pain. It's about supporting people and being the best versions of themselves that they can be. Part of that, yes, is getting rid of their physical pain, but it's also about them stepping into their authenticity, about them loving themselves. Mm-hmm. And definitely it becomes much easier to love yourself when you are authentic. Like a lot of times when we're struggling to love ourselves, it's because we're being inauthentic. We're being who we think that society wants us to be, who we need to be to keep our job, who we need to be to keep our relationships, who we need, it's hard to love that person that isn't really you. And so that's one of the big missions. And I know sometimes you struggle with this word a little bit, Graciela, but our work is healing people and we are creating transformation. Even if it doesn't necessarily look like that, and even if sometimes those feel like really big words to, big shoes to step into, it is what we're doing. Yeah. And so,
I think the part that's like most amazing to me, and I want to describe a little bit more what Body and Soul Ministries is for people to really understand that. But the part about healing that I've really come to embrace and realize really is that I've had a very Western viewpoint, right, of what healing is. Mm-hmm. And I think that healing is something that happens even by just being yourself, right? Even just creating the space for other people to have their own experiences is healing, like my photography ends up being healing just by the virtue of creating it. It's not that I specifically set out to heal someone with photography, right? But it is this amazing byproduct that comes from listening to people and giving them the space to be themselves and watching people shed layers and layers of just nonsense that they've been carrying for years and realize, wow, I really am this person. The client that I was mentioning earlier, she kept looking at her picture saying, I can't believe that's me. I can't believe that's me. And I'm like, but honey, it's not a picture. It's a mirror. You literally look like that right now, and we have this disconnect over who we think we are and how we think we look and what you really are, right? Like your real self. So my I don't know, ability to create a space for people to feel this, yes, is healing. And yeah, I have had discomfort with the word healer because when you say the word healer, you imagine someone like in a big long white coat, but it's perfect. It's perfect. But in a sentence or two, let's explain what ministries is and what that means.
So, ministries is the structure that we've created for all of these things that we're doing to live under. And, for people to have access, they get to become a member. It's not a church. It's not a religion. It's and
it's not like you have to pay to be a member. It's not that either. Like we're not selling you a private Facebook group. Like it's not that.
No, but it is an umbrella for all of our all of our services to live under. And so my healing work will continue to live under this umbrella of Body and Soul Ministries. Graciela has things that she's been bringing into her life in addition to the photography, so the Reiki, the cacao ceremonies, and all of that will live under the umbrella. The retreats that we're doing. So, we're leaving in a few days for San Miguel. And when we come back, we have a mini retreat, here locally in Fort Lauderdale. There's going to be more workshops, more retreats. I even think we don't even know all the things that are going to be coming to be. So,
well, in our cacao high, we have made quite elaborate plans. But I think the biggest thing that the ministry gives us is freedom, the freedom to do all of these things in the way that they were intended, right? In the way that is the most healing, that serves the most people in the most holistic way. And yes, I just got my Reiki Master Teacher certification from Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca. Which was really cool. And I'm looking forward to continuing, through that path. I've just been so excited for all of the growth and change in myself, in others, and seeing the practical implication of that growth, right? Like, I've got friends that are getting married, getting divorced, having babies, changing their jobs, quitting their jobs, starting their businesses, ending their businesses, right? Like, all these transitions in life, it's like that one phrase of the woman who cuts her hair is about to change her life. Same thing, right? Same thing with business and life and kids. Like, all of these things do not have to be hard. The other day I was talking about cacao and someone was like, oh, it was so bitter. And I'm like, but why didn't you just sweeten it? Like, I mean, it's cacao consumption is intended to be pleasurable. And really, if you extrapolate that into your life is not meant to be bitter. It's not meant to be suffering. I didn't realize that because that's not how I was raised. I was raised with loads of suffering. But once I realized, like, wait a minute, everybody else is just out here having fun. Like, we're just having a good time. I could do that, Remember when one day I was really into smelling some flowers and I was just really like, I don't know, just enjoying the moment. And so I went back to Julietta and I'm like, my God, these flowers smell amazing. And I'm like, could you imagine this every day? And you were like, I live like that every day. And I'm like, what? What? You live like this every day? Just happy like that every day? So giving folks that time and space to create that and to be like, yeah, I can be happy every day. I'm not telling you to be a grin and fool all day long, oblivious to the shit happening in the world.
right.
But I'm telling you that you can experience joy every day, even if the world is falling apart, even if everything around you feels like it's falling apart.
And the more people that choose to live authentically, to live in their joy, to live in their happiness, to live in their peace, to live in their freedom, when we create that within, that is what creates that outside of us. Someone earlier, there's some really shitty things happening in the world right now. And you go, how can we create peace in the world? You create peace in the world by creating peace within yourself. And when you can create peace within yourself, that spreads to the person next to you, and then it spreads to the person next to them. So when we see that there's war out there, that there is sadness and anger and all of that, it's because it exists within you and it hasn't healed within you yet. And so, ultimately that is the big mission for us to support all of you in finding those things within yourself so that they can be manifest out in the world as well.
I'm so excited for this future. We were talking earlier about like the future of, body and soul and voices of the goddess. And when we say, guys, that we're planning retreats, we're talking like several international retreats throughout the year. We're talking about domestic retreats. We're talking about little mini weekends, our soulful manifestation and cacao magic mini retreat. That one's going to be a juicy 6 hours, right? And we're starting from a place, and for folks that are just getting started and that are like, hey, wait a minute, how come they get to be super happy? I want to be super happy too. Like, that's perfect. Come on in. And then for folks that are further along the path, like, oh, I have X practice and I just want to deepen it. Or I really enjoyed this modality, but now I'm kind of curious about that one, right? Like, there are a lot of different ways to get to the same place. And at the end of the day, we just want to open those doors.
I think that's, you talked about sometimes those things, because they're unfamiliar, can be scary. And I know that's part of what we're here to do, is to explain it to people so it's not scary, and so that they feel safe and comfortable coming in and exploring these amazing tools that they've been used since the beginning of time. But because they're so empowering, they've been like hidden and pushed aside and poo-pooed and belittled.
Yeah.
And, it's time to give the people their power back. And your power lies in your authenticity.
I love it. I love it.
Woo.
We have a lot to go. I'm super excited, and I can't wait for the next 100 episodes. Let's go.
Because I do listen to other people's podcasts, and I was listening to someone this morning celebrating that they did their 600 podcasts. And I was like, oh my God, like, we're at 200. And I think that's big. We got more to go.
And you know what, guys, like, tell us what you want to hear. Tell us if there's something you want to hear more about. We do have that Facebook group, which is a nice little place to kind of settle in and have conversations there. But we're open. You guys can always reach out to us and chat with us and send us your questions, or if you have a special guest request, or we're all about it.
Absolutely. Thank you for going on this wild ride with me, Graciela.
Thank you.
So thank you to our listeners. Keep on listening. And we forget to say this sometimes, but please, like, it helps us, but it also, the people that we really want to help are the guests that come on our show. And so just to really support everybody out there, if you can subscribe, give us a review on Apple, like us, share us, make comments, all of that, it's free for you to do it. And it really makes a difference in all of our guests' lives, and it helps us keep this going.
We appreciate you. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on the other side.
Have a magical day, everyone.
Thanks for joining us today and keeping us in the top 10% of podcasts in the world.
Ask us how you can promote your business on this podcast as a sponsor, and make sure you check out the show notes for details on how to get in touch with Julietta, Graciela, or today's special guest.
We're sending you lots of love and gratitude. Have a magical day.